Welcome back to parkbench.com/Monroe-CT. I'm Danielle Ronan with Ronan Associates at Keller Williams Realty. And welcome back to my election series here. November 5th is coming up soon, so make sure you make your vote count. Today I'm with Ken Kellogg, who is the first selectman of Monroe. Good morning, Ken.
Good morning, Danielle. Thank you so much for having me today.
It's my absolute pleasure. What I would love to know is what made you decide to want to be a leader in Monroe?
Well, thank you. Well, it was really just a love for this community and a love to want to give back to the community. I mean, for me, it's really not so much about politics, it's about civics. It's about what we can do as a community for each other, for our neighbors, to come together and make the best decisions for our community.
Okay, so you're just finishing up your first term and you're running for your second term. What was it like when you first started as the first selectman?
Sure. Well, as you could probably expect, there's a lot to get up to speed on all at once. And actually, once you get elected, it's immediately budget season, so there's a lot of long hours and a lot to do. But my first term, I think, has been extremely rewarding. I've been fortunate to have a great team, whether that's the staff in town, volunteers, elected and appointed officials. It really, I think, if you look at things like our votes on town council and on board of finance, I mean, we have almost unanimous votes almost every time on things that come before them. And I think that speaks to how we're working together, how we're making the best decisions. It speaks to the process, the preparation, and really making sure that we've anticipated questions and concerns and that we're working together for all of Monroe.
Okay, great. And what do you consider as your greatest accomplishment during your first term here?
Thanks. Well, I am very proud of the fact that we've kept taxes under control. The fact that taxes are lower today than they were 2 years ago is a big accomplishment, and it's not done easily. We've done that primarily by controlling spending, but also with a growth in our grand list as well. But, we really, when we talk about budgeting, my focus is like, do it as any family or as any well-run business would. You have to look at what the needs are. You can't always afford to do everything you may want to do. You got to prioritize, and you have to make the best decisions. And you got to think of the taxpayers in mind, right? So I'm very proud of the fact that in the process of budgeting and coming up with how we're going to move the town forward, we've been able to increase services in a budget-neutral fashion in many ways. So you look at the library having extended hours now more than they had before. We have added hours at the Wolf Park Pool. We've done those all in budget-neutral fashion and working collaboratively with our department heads to find solutions to increase services. We've got a lot of collaboration across departments as well now. So if you look at our Community and Social Services Department working hand-in-hand with our Parks and Rec Department, we now have programs that we offer to seniors that are members of our senior center that are provided at no additional charge, and they're programs run by the Parks and Rec Department. Could be, swimming at Massac Pool. It could be walking at the track at Massac. We have a recreation program that Parks and Rec put on specifically for members of the senior center. And things like, the tax collector mailing park stickers out for Parks and Rec in the mail. Something that was really, it's a small thing, but it's such a huge convenience to our residents. And those are the types of things we're looking for, those types of solutions.
So what are some of your goals for your second term?
So one thing I'm really focused on is creating a long-term infrastructure plan for the town of Monroe. I'm very proud of the fact that we're as far as like roads are concerned, we're doing a great job in continuing that progress. We're on track to pave more roads, more miles of roads this fiscal year than we have in each of the past 5 fiscal years. But we have to continue that progress. I'm committed to keeping that investment going forward, so we continue to, because we're working on a backlog that started back. We started that backlog work in 2010, and we're continuing to move forward. I want to expand our infrastructure evaluation. I've got a program called the Municipal Space Needs Assessment, where we have a professional analysis being done on what our space needs are: town hall, senior center, highway garage, etc. And we've got some aging buildings, we have some space needs, but we need a long-term plan, we need a roadmap. And we have to do it over time in a financially responsible way. And in order to do that, we have to have the plan put together. And we're well underway of getting that work done. I'm working with a committee of our town council, strategic planning committee, to put that together, and I'm looking forward to be able to roll that out. And the other big goal I have is we are on track to establish a technology to support our permitting process. So when you talk about whether it's a new business coming to town needing to pull permits, or whether it's a homeowner who wants to put in a pool, a deck, a shed. I want them to be able to go and start an application online, check the status online, have things that are now paper and in different systems and different departments all come together in one cohesive system, and we're ready to do that. We've got funding secured through a regional grant through the Metropolitan Council of Governments, and we're going to be able to, they're in the process of working to build that now. We're going to be able to implement it locally, and I'm really excited because that will kind of help not just the convenience, but also have workflow and technology to support the process and use that to build a more efficient process at the same time.
And in my world, that would be extremely, extremely helpful.
Sure. Well, I'm doing those kind of things because I've spent a lot of time listening to folks like you, like developers, realtors, homeowners, business owners, and this is something that they're really supportive of. So it's important.
So tell me what it's like to run unopposed.
Well, thanks. Well, I certainly like to think that it shows the confidence that what we are doing for all Monroe families, right? At the end of the day, it's about what we can do for everyone in this town. But the one thing I do want to remember, have people remember is that, I don't want anyone to think their vote doesn't count. It's critically important that they get out and vote. We have contested races on town council, our town treasurer, and as I said before, we're doing a lot of great things, and a lot of that is due to the strength of the team. And so I would ask that people, when they, please come out and vote on November 5th. Remember the strength of that team, and it's your support of the Republican team will help me to continue to move this town forward.
And we know it's no secret that Connecticut's economic situation is a little dismal at this point,
yes.
Very challenged. So what are your thoughts with the Economic Development Committee for Monroe, and what are your thoughts on that?
Thank you. Yes. So I'm really proud that our grand list continues to grow. We have dozens of new businesses that are coming into town, ranging from small companies. Lakeside Nutrition has just opened up. We've got Terra Cafe, Turning the Page Bookstore, a lot, and we have regional things. We have a new hardware store that's looking to come into the former Stepney Hardware, kind of a regional chain. We have corporate headquarters. NEHDS Logistics moved their corporate headquarters to Monroe. We have national brands. NBC Universal is one of our top 10 taxpayers now in Monroe. So we have a lot of great things going on. My focus is that we need to create the most positive environment to encourage investment and to encourage economic growth in the town. So I've done a lot of things. I've reorganized our land use departments. I've changed job descriptions. I hired a town planner that is focused on the permitting process and focused on customer service, and is really being our liaison to our Economic Development Commission for the land use departments, and helping me as we have, trying to evaluate process and procedure, and as I said earlier, things like bringing technology. So we're very focused on customer experience and trying to work collaboratively with other, you look at like our Planning and Zoning Commission. They have a huge role to play in here, and we're having great progress in that and trying to understand and share different things. I created the first Selectman's Business and Industry Advisory Committee to have that dialogue be an ongoing event, and they sit on that as well. So I'll give you one example. Right now, the Planning and Zoning Commission changed regulations so that if there's a minor change to a previously approved plan, it can now be approved at the staff level, as opposed to having to go back before the commit. Right. So that was a big undertaking, but it's all within certain parameters. It's very structured. It all has to be reported back to the commission, so it's done very transparently. But it's something that adds efficiency and adds, again, it's just better customer service. So that's just one small example of how we're trying to evaluate people and evaluate process and evaluate how we do things in our partnerships and continue to move the town forward in that regard.
So how did you wind up in Monroe? Like, what brought you here?
So I grew up in Stratford, and grew up there, and it was in the early 2000s, about 2001, when my wife and I were deciding where we were going to kind of settle in. We had been in Stratford for a short amount of time, and Monroe was one of the only a couple of towns that a few towns that we looked at, and we kind of fell in love with it. It's just a wonderful community. As you know, we have just great parks, safe neighborhoods, an outstanding award-winning school system, and just great people. It's just a great town, and we love it here.
And so do I. So thank you, Ken, so much for joining us. Again, remember, Election Day is coming up Tuesday, November 5th. Your vote does matter, so please get out to the polls. And thank you again for tuning in to parkbench.com/Monroe-CT.